So ways of knowing, the conceptual way of knowing is pretty useless for knowing who or what you are in the depths of your being, or to get even an inkling of what might be the deeper meaning behind the word God, to get a sense of what that might refer to. So your conceptual mind cannot really help you, although sometimes certain words that one uses can be helpful as pointers, but not as explanations. A word can point you in the right direction of non-conceptual knowing. So you can use a concept as a pointer towards non-conceptual knowing. For example, when I say stillness, the possibility of letting go of the stream of thinking and becoming still. And when you become still, thinking has subsided, but you haven't fallen asleep unless you're badly jet-lagged. Thinking has subsided, but you remain awake. And that state of wakefulness is awareness. When thinking subsides, awareness or presence, same thing, presence remains. That's very interesting, and that's an incredibly important skill. Until it becomes second nature, you could call it a skill, to learn to step out of the stream of thinking, perhaps initially by being aware of your breathing. That stills the mind, and then there's a stillness that remains. That stillness is aware presence. And there you enter the field of true gnosis, Gnosis, the deeper knowing of your essential reality. And that is a non-conceptual knowing. That's the only knowing that you can use, can be helpful in trying to not understand God, because that's not possible, but to get a sense, a kind of realization of what that word actually means, the reality to which it points. But it's not only, as a little aside for a moment, it's not only knowing yourself, where the non-conceptual knowing is important. The non-conceptual knowing, to become familiar with that kind of knowing, is important even in this world, knowing things in this world. Again, you can know things through mental concepts, the screen of mental concepts, or you can know things more directly without conceptualization, a totally different way of knowing. And I emphasize that both are necessary for a human being, but in our civilization, most humans are completely lost in the conceptual reality. They can no longer, or very rarely, and many humans not at all, relate to this world without the screen of conceptualization, which is through thinking, immediately labeling everything that they experience, every sense perception, having a mental commentary about every sense perception. Oh, look at that tree, isn't that lovely? I wonder what it's called. Isn't that a tree that I saw last year in such and such a place? I wonder. And now you don't even have to rely on your thinking. You get your phone out and say, let's see what this tree is. There's an app for it. There's an app that you take a photo and it tells you what the name of the tree. So you can go, oh, and that's I have that app, by the way, because sometimes it's quite nice to have. But if you're trapped in that, if you cannot relate to the tree in any deeper way than through concepts, that's very limiting. Ideally, you have both in your life, but I don't emphasize concepts because you have that already. Everybody has far more concepts than they need. Everybody is trapped in a conceptual reality. Humans yourself have made themselves into a conceptual entity, which is the ego, the narrative of me, which you call my life. So that learning this way of knowing that is non-conceptual, not learning it, rediscovering it, because before humans were excessively burdened by the conceptual mind thousands of years ago, they had a bit more access to this non-conceptual knowing. So when you look at a tree, I love trees are a wonderful example because they're such wonderful beings. And even on this huge property here, I've seen some amazing, in this case, yes, they have a name, olive trees. But so knowing that it is an olive tree does not necessarily mean that you're trapped in a concept. You know there's an olive tree, but you're not trapped in the concept. You're still able to then let go of the concept and then look at the tree. And be still while you look. Maybe you even touch it, but it's not necessary. You could. As long as there's nobody around, people might think you're weird. So you look at the tree and you're still at the same time. And then you can know the tree not through concepts, but you can sense the life of the tree. Now we are using into the realm of what is perhaps conventionally called mysticism, but that's just a word, but really means refers to a deeper knowing. But our civilization dislikes that because our civilization is dominated by conceptualization and the ego. There are egoic entities everywhere, not just individual egos, but egoic entities, like even at CNN is an egoic entity. Fox is an egoic entity, to talk about American TV station, in case you don't know. The political party is an egoic entity. A corporation is an egoic collective entity. They're everywhere. So you can sense the being of the tree. That sounds very weird. I'm sorry about that. You sense the aliveness, the being, the presence of the tree, and you know it in a much deeper way. And you know something, the tree that is deeper than what your senses tell you about the tree. Now, the ancient humans in almost probably all cultures and civilizations had more access to that dimension because the conceptual mind was not quite as developed, not as advanced, developed yet. So there was still some room for sensing, to knowing things at a deeper level. Let's go back to the tree. When you look at this tree and you're still, but so there is an intelligence there, but it's not what we conventionally call intelligence. There's a different kind of intelligence. And this is the beginning of wisdom, where intelligence turns into wisdom. Wisdom is associated with this deeper way of knowing. That they go together, almost they're one, almost. So you sense the aliveness of the tree, its beingness, and then you come to that, what ancient cultures knew, and we have to use that word, and that's the fringe of God, so to speak. You sense the sacredness of the tree. You sense the sacredness of this life form. And you then, what arises then is a certain respect for the life form of the tree. In many ancient cultures, trees were considered sacred, and sometimes they chose particular trees that were particularly sacred. And often ceremonies, religious, spiritual ceremonies were performed where there were groves of trees, and people get drawn there because they could sense the energy field that emanates from those trees. Now, the modern human cannot sense that because the modern human only knows the tree through conceptualization. So we need both. It's good to know, sometimes it's helpful to know the name of the tree. It also can be helpful to know things about the tree, how it grows, how old it is. You can countless PhDs have been written about trees, I'm sure of that. And you can write new ones too. So there's a lot you can conceptually know and say, we don't know yet about the tree. You can ask all kinds of questions. How does the water get up into the high branches how does the tree pull up the water? I'm sure PhDs have been written about that and there's some answer. But that's all conceptual. So inviting the non-conceptual knowing into your life is very important.